sounding like a couple donkeys in the intro.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be good.
All right, we're live. Welcome back to the podcast. Today we got a special guest, a good friend of mine, Brad Beermann. Welcome to the podcast, Brad.
Hey, thanks a lot, Ollie. I just wanted to say, longtime fan of the program, and I'm super happy to be on.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Brad and I have known each other for a long time, 30 years or so, give or take.
Yeah, I think maybe 31 in August-ish.
Yeah. Both grown up, went to the same schools, grown up in Bell's Corners. Couple small town lads just trying to make something of ourselves, trying to make it big. And like most people out there, we are trying to capitalize on understanding how motivation works to kind of do the best we can and overcome the lapses in motivation that we have. So that's motivation is kind of what I wanted to talk about today. And I'll throw a few questions at you. You can kind of grab which one you want and run with it. So for you, Brad, what do you find you are motivated to do, and what do you find you're motivated by? And then also, has your motivation shifted throughout the years, and maybe specifically as COVID has happened and maybe the future is more uncertain? You can grab any one of those. You don't have to do all three, but whatever you feel like. And yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, definitely a couple good questions, couple good options to choose from.
Yeah, options are good.
Yeah, options aren't too bad. I mean, the thing is, I feel like my motivation has changed over the years, but not necessarily because my goals are so much different, but just where my life is at, kind of thing. I feel like I was more motivated to work on certain things during university, and once that was over and I moved into like the corporate workspace there, what I wanted to do and who I wanted to become has kind of changed and influenced how I, motivate myself and stay motivated and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, like in high school, probably motivated by like I don't know, maybe like racking up a good kill death ratio on Call of Duty or winning the futsal championship, stuff like that. But yeah, things have definitely changed. For me, that used to be what I was into. And then, yeah, like you're saying, as you get older, things start to change with your motivations. And one thing that I find difficult about motivation is how it seems to come and go so quickly. Like, I'll be super motivated to work out or even do this podcast some days, and then other days it'll seem to disappear, and then it takes like a whole lot of effort and like, I don't know, willpower, I guess, to make yourself do those things that you were once easily able to do because you were just so motivated. Have you found that? Like, I'm assuming that's something that almost everybody goes through, like, unless you're like a robot machine, you go through those lapses and those up and downs in motivation. Have you found that like lately at least, or like at points in your life?
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of interesting that you said how motivation, it kind of just comes and goes. It's one of those things that you can't just actively practice. I feel like motivation's just like a noun. You have it or you don't, and it kind of comes in waves, I find. And it's pretty tough to channel too. I don't really know how to get it. It just, some days I'll wake up and have it, and I'll be like, all right, time to use this. We got the engine running. It's we're good to go. But other days it's just it's hard to get up and be like, I want to do something today that I don't usually do, or I want to kill it at work today. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you said like once you feel that you have the motivation, it's like, okay, time to use this. I feel like that's a good point because I've heard with motivation or like incentives, you almost want to be impatient with the actions you take, but you're patient with the results. So you're willing to wait, and you're not necessarily expecting the results to come immediately, but you'll be impatient with taking action. So you're not going to wait to take the action. So when you get a burst of motivation, you almost maybe should consider it as like lucky in a sense. Like, okay, we got this. We better use it, because I'll find that even like within a day, you'll be motivated, and then like an hour later, I'll be like, no, I don't feel like doing that anymore. So it actually can just disappear, like just out of thin air. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, it almost instantly, sometimes it can just shut off. And when you get it and you're firing on all cylinders, you really want to do whatever it is that you were motivated to do, whether it be like kill it at work or go for a run or work out or something.
Yeah.
I find if you don't do it in that instance, the motivation strikes, it's just gonna go away. You get it and you just go for it. But if you're like, I got a little bit of motivation now, maybe I'll chill for 5 minutes, hop into a game here or something like that, then revisit it after.
The motivation might be it might be spent on things that you wouldn't, if you were to like look back on it, you would prefer that motivation to be spent elsewhere. Like, let's say you get a burst of motivation, you're fired up, you're like, let's go, let's get some stuff done. You maybe turn on the Xbox. Yeah, you're really motivated. Maybe you like set some new, you get some new like personal best kill streaks or whatever it is, whatever game you're playing. But then you finish the session, your motivation's done, and you're all out of gas essentially. You just gassed yourself, and now the workout or whatever like more like a classically productive thing is you're not doing that, because you spent all your energy on other stuff.
That's really the problem, is when sorry.
Yeah, it's a relatable thing. That's happened to me before, where you end up doing stuff, but it's not the stuff you wanted to do, and then by the time you're done, you're finished. And yeah.
No, that is a good point though, because I find with the day-to-day stuff, you don't really get motivated to do that. Those things are just habits that you do daily, you know. Brushing your teeth is perceived as a good thing, and I think most people get up, they do it, they go to bed. Well, I think factually it's good to brush your teeth, not perceived, whatever. But right. It's one of those things where you just get up and you do it. It's a habit. You don't need to be motivated to do that. It's almost the things that you don't usually do are the things that you get motivated to do, whether it be studying more than you usually would, or working a little overtime, or trying to go skiing or something like that. Something that's out of your daily routine that you just get a sense of, hey, I got to do this today, is how you really, I think that's how you get inspired and motivated.
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said for like racking up those little things and considering them a win. Like when you brush your teeth, even, like you just take that as a little W, and everything throughout the day that you're doing, I don't know, you wake up on time, you brush your teeth, you eat breakfast. These are all little wins, and I feel like you can start to build momentum, which potentially makes it easier to or it doesn't require as much motivation to continue onward. Like you're feeling good. And I know from a habit perspective, once you get these little rewards and you start to feel good, it's actually easier to continue on further. Like you'll be less likely to kind of run out of energy. Like if you're I gave this example in one of the other podcasts before, but let's say you're running and you're feeling really good about it, and let's say you cross past a certain mark that you've never ran past before. So you set a personal best. That might give you a little boost to continue on. So that's an example of one like little win that you've gotten that has boosted you further. And I feel like there's maybe small wins throughout the day that that maybe usually you'd brush aside, but it might be worthwhile to consider them as wins and like look at, hey, I did that thing that is pretty small, but that was good, and let's keep going. Because that whole concept is like they call it the winner effect of like how if you win, you feel good and you want to keep like you're more likely to want to keep going. So if you maybe like somehow convince yourself that these small things you're doing are actually wins, you could want to keep going more and more, and you're like, we're doing well, let's keep this thing going.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. When you look at it in these little tasks, when you look at them in terms of just like goals or wins, like you said, grab a couple dubs in the morning.
And brushing your teeth, that sounds like a silly little thing, but I guess the main point is just like appreciate the little wins, because that could add up to a big momentum for you.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, you wake up in the morning, make your bed, brush your teeth, 2 goals right off the bat. So 1-2 Mayweather kind of thing.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you have 2 wins before breakfast. That compounds throughout the day.
3
the fact that
McGregor.
You made breakfast is already a win.
Yeah.
Now you have 3 and workday hasn't even started. I mean, when you look at it like that, that is a good way to motivate yourself, just because you take these like little steps. I find when I think of goals or challenges, I break it down into steps. How am I going to get there? Just one step at a time.
Mm-hmm.
I find I stay motivated when I get to that next step. If the goal, for instance, is having a sick day, just an unreal work day or whatever it may be, and you start first step, make the bed, second step is brush your teeth, whatever. Now you're climbing this staircase and you all of a sudden are just knocking down goals. You're staying motivated because you're like, oh, another step, another step.
Easy money. It's like these are the stuff that aren't difficult for you to do, and you maybe do them every day, but they give you that little boost. And I feel like those are the things that are good to have, because they're not super challenging. They give you the easy win, the consistent win. Like every morning you can get that win right off the bat. And I know that it's kind of like a military or like a Navy. I've heard some Navy SEALs talk about that mentality of like win the morning. Like they want to get their day off to a good start. And I think it's for that purpose. Like you get that little win, like you make your bed. I honestly usually don't make my bed just because I don't care about it, but there's other stuff like other stuff that I'll do. Sometimes just a morning, like a little stretch, yoga type of thing, and get some breakfast, and you feel like, okay, I got this win. And then whatever other thing you're gonna go to, usually work. Like I don't know, you're on a good page. Versus if you wake up, and this is what I used to do, like for school and everything. You wake up and you're already late. Like you missed the bus or whatever. And I had a lot of days like that where probably looking back, it wasn't a good way to start the day, where like you're chasing down the bus because you missed it.
Couple L's in a row.
Start the day with a few L's, not a good way to do it.
That's a good point though, because like you just said, you're not a fan of making the bed, and obviously on my way to the studio I couldn't help but notice it wasn't made today. But that's not what you care about. It's all about what kind of drives you and what you value. I feel like those are the things you get motivated to do the most. Some guys don't like making the bed, but other guys like a clean studio. It's like
exactly.
Little stretch in the morning.
You only have so much time and so much motivated energy to spend, and if I can only spend it on one thing, I'll do it on the studio and not on the bed.
That's a good point. Yeah, it is, because it comes and goes so often. Motivation, you almost have to choose what you spend it on. It's almost like it's almost like a currency. You can't really waste it. You got to spend it wisely.
And I think there's something to be said for that motivation, because like we're saying, it doesn't really last. That if you truly want to get a lot of things done, or maybe you have some like big projects that are going to take a lot of time and a lot of consistency of of going and working on them, you can't leave it up to motivation. It's almost got to be you create habits, or you just develop the discipline to do the things. Because I at least find for working out, I'm not usually motivated very much to do it. I guess maybe there's a little light of motivation there, but honestly most of the time I'm not really fired up and I don't really feel like doing it. But I think the motivation that makes me end up doing it is partially just trusting that it will work out, and maybe a slight fear of what will happen if you don't do these things. Because I know fear is a very good motivator. If you're afraid of what's going to happen if you aren't, let's say, studying for an exam, then that's likely going to push you to actually study the exam. Like if you start to think, okay, I fail this exam, what happens to me then? Maybe I'll fail the class. What happens to me then? I'll have to redo the whole year. Okay, that's going to suck. What's going to happen if I have to do that? Maybe your like parents or get mad at you, or your friends look down on you, and all this fear starts to build up, and now you're like, okay, I'm going to study for this thing because I don't want that to happen. So you're running away from a potential future for yourself that you don't want to happen. And I think that's one of the biggest motivators for people to do a lot of things in their life, is that they can kind of make a concept or visualize what would happen to me, or what would I be like if I didn't do these things. And it's maybe that in a combination with picturing what would happen if you did consistently do these things. Like let's say you did study and you start to dream of, oh, what if I did get a really good grade? What if that led to getting this job? And it's maybe a combination of both of those two things, of dreaming for the future and kind of visualizing a good thing that could happen, and then the fear that is actually pushing you as a motivator. What do you think about that? Like, do you find that fear, it might even be hard to see that it's fear that's motivating you, but have you, or do you think that like fear has been a motivator for you to do things?
Yeah, I think it's fear in a combination of some other things. I definitely have been in the situation where I'm studying for something and I think, damn, if I fail this class, if I fail this exam, that's going to suck, and that's what's going to keep me going. But it's also a combination of that with, I want to look back in the future and just say, okay, I'm satisfied with this work that I put in. Mm-hmm. It's easy to just put something off and procrastinate right now. Yeah. Sometimes when the goals are so small, you think, oh, this is easy, I'll do it in 20 minutes. 20 minutes goes by, you do it, you're like, oh yeah, it's still quick job, get it done in 5, and then you just put it off. But if you just kind of get it done and think to yourself, my future self will appreciate this if I just get it done now. And I just want to look back down the line and think, yeah, that was a good shift. I'm happy with that. Yeah. You know, like I worked hard, put my best foot forward, and it might not even be the result you want. You could still fail that test, or you could still not get that job. Mm-hmm. But as long as you look back and say, you know, I did the best I could, and I can at least be happy about that. I feel like just that makes me want to work harder in the moment. And to tie it back to the failure thing, my future self is not going to appreciate, you know, paying for the class again, or getting fired or something like that. So they kind of play together, I find.
Yeah, I think if you want to get like the maximum amount of motivation, you almost want to like tap into both of those. Start to consider what would happen if you just let all your vices take over, kind of. Like, what if you were to let them all grab you and they like took up all your time and energy? Where would you end up in like 5 years from now if that just happened? Versus if you were doing the things that you think will lead to better things, and we're doing those, where could you potentially end up. And if you were to like visualize yourself in like 5 years, that image, at least for me, that like kind of experiment or whatever of visualizing yourself in the future, like what could you end up being if you continue to do these things that are supposed to be good for you, and then at the same time simultaneously running away from the potential future of who would I be and what would I be like if I didn't do certain things, or I did certain negative things for the next 5 years. And that in itself, like the long-term thinking, I feel like it's something I never really did before. Like when I was, have you found that too? Like just like as time has gone by, you're more thinking about things like this. Like I know in high school or even elementary, you just like, you wouldn't be thinking about this stuff, right? Like it's, but now I guess, now maybe since you start to realize, I guess at this age, this is probably this is a typical age where people start to realize that is like, who am I about to become? You know what I mean? Like this is, I guess, like a big stepping stone, stage in a lot of people's life, I think. Like, do you think so too? Like, just like, I feel like you graduate high school, you graduate college, and then, it's like, where do you go from there? And it almost can be daunting to think about, like, what am I going to do with my life?
Yeah, it's really overwhelming when you think about the future like that. But just to bring it back around, in high school, I didn't think about the future at all.
No.
Day by day.
Yeah.
Just,
that's in a way a good way to live, though. Like they always say,
unreal. Be
present. And I guess like in high school, that's what we were doing, just like day by day, hour by hour.
Yeah, just wake up. You go into school carefree. It's like you'll just grease your way by whatever class and just kind of mangle your way through lunch, and you just don't worry about anything. And I always
a lot of mangling.
Yeah, and I always thought, why think about the future? Like, we're living in the present. And I thought that way for a really long time. And even throughout university too, I was thinking, well, I just got to worry about today, and I'll worry about tomorrow when tomorrow comes. Yeah. And I always rolled that way. And I didn't really care about thinking about the future. But it wasn't until I started working and living on my own and having all these responsibilities more than I did before, where I start to consider what the consequences of these actions are going to be in the future. It's like, you have to save, you have to eat well, putting money away for whatever the case may be. Like a bunch of things that kind of, more responsibility, I think, is what makes me think about the future more. And in high school, all you had to do was hop on Call of Duty at the end of the day. You're just playing a couple games, not thinking about it.
Like, you were doing well if you, like, I don't know, got to like like a 20 in one game or whatever. Like that was like a hard day's work, and that was a success. You could chalk that up on the calendar, put a little check mark to that day. And I think part of it definitely was more relaxing in those days, because you weren't thinking about the future. Because what you're saying there, that reminded me of how I used to in high school not really be too stressed out about failing tests or whatever. And I think that's because I wasn't thinking about the future very much. Like, I wasn't thinking, oh, if I fail this, maybe I'll fail the class, and then maybe I won't be able to get into university that I wanted. I just wasn't thinking about future at all. So I know even sometimes my dad would try to purposely stress me out. Like, he'd be like, "You have a test tomorrow, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, not a big deal. I have a couple games to play here." No problem. Yeah. But he'd be like, "You should be stressed, right?" And I'm like, No, not. It doesn't matter. Like, but I think that's partly why I wasn't stressed, is because I wasn't thinking super far in the future. I was just like, oh, whatever. You fail like a quiz, you'll just, like, I don't know, hop on Call of Duty with the boys tomorrow. Just forget about it.
Yeah, I'll worry about it later. Do you think maybe it was because you weren't really all that challenged in high school? like if the work was very if the work was difficult and you really needed to buckle down and like read a book, you would probably be more inclined to do that than to play some video games. But sometimes I felt in high school it was kind of just you walk in, you get a grade, you leave. It wasn't like you didn't really have to reach for anything. It was always kind of put right in front of you. And for that reason, I was just able to focus on, playing video games.
What truly matters. Yeah.
What really matters.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it, though. Yeah, you just walk in, get a grade, you leave, and that's pretty much about it. I mean, there were times, I'm not trying to say I was never stressed out about high school. There were definitely times, like chemistry exam, like I remember that my dad was definitely stressing me out about that a little bit because he has a chemistry background, and we were going over some of the midterm stuff. And I was like, yeah, I haven't like really studied any of this stuff yet. It was the night before the exam. And then he was looking through it. He's like, oh my God, you have so much stuff to learn. And I was like, yeah, I know. And at that point, I was starting to get a little bit stressed out, actually. But
Mark just applying a little bit of gas.
yeah.
Trying to get
Put
you
a
fired
little
up.
fire underneath me. But
no, that's
it all worked out okay. Bondi ended up... we worked some things out with that, so shout out to him.
Play a little frisbee, get an A-.
Score a couple touchdowns, your mark goes up a bit. Little secret, expose the St. Paul
Tricks
secrets.
of the trade.
Yeah, exactly.
In high school, I find I wasn't super motivated to do anything academically. I think when I started to try was when you needed to. That time where you go to the guidance counselor and you're looking at options for university or college or whatever your path was, and they're like, you got to get these grades if you want to go to this school.
Right.
And my grades weren't really at that level at that point in time, and that was the thing that motivated me. I was like, oh shit, can I swear on here?
Yeah.
Shit, I was like, shit, man, I gotta.
Too late. It's already out there. Yeah, that'll be probably the first one, though. I mean, the only thing that will happen now is that our sponsors will change. We won't be able to get the Disney sponsors or the I don't know
Yeah, I mean, the thing that just kind of drove it home was that I got the first dose of reality. I felt like at that point in time when I was with the guidance counselor, and she's like, hey, if you want to go to university, calculus needs to be up, English has to be nice, and step those things up. And then that was like that first dose of, this is what my future is going to be like if I don't do those things versus if I do. And I feel like that was a motivating factor, considering the future, instead of just focusing on the present. It's hard to often get the motivation.
Yeah, you definitely need to be thinking. It sucks though that that fear works so well, but it's not fun to have like the guidance counselor be like, Brad, you're not gonna make it to university. You're not gonna do the things that you want with your life. And you're gonna miss out big time. It's gonna be a horrible situation, and you're out of luck unless you get English up a couple notches, calculus up maybe a few more notches. But it's too bad that that's the way it works. But fear for sure is a massive motivator. Do you find like it's hard to pinpoint that on smaller things? Like I'm thinking. For like working out, I gave that example of something that takes some motivation for sure, but I don't know if I'm necessarily fearful of not doing it. Maybe a little bit, I guess. Just like I guess I've taken certain breaks from working out, and you know how much better you feel when you are working out, and then if you could be afraid of going back to that, I guess. But it's harder to pinpoint it for small, like more day-to-day things, like something like going to university. That's like a big step in your life, where that is like, like you better get this together. But like motivating for you to like, I don't know, like go to work that one, I guess there probably is a fear. You want to get there every day, because if you don't, maybe your boss is like, uh-oh, that's like, we've had enough. Yeah.
See ya, buddy.
Simple cut from the team, yeah. But
no, that's a good point though. The small stuff, it's harder to find the motivation to do, and I think it's because there's a correlation between motivation and the future. Like, you get motivated to do something, and you do it, and then you get the satisfaction when you see that thing come to fruition, or you see it all the way through, and it's like mission accomplished. It's like you wake up, you get motivated to work out, and that is it. The Kickstarter that's going to get you into the gym, to the workout, and then you'll see that all the way through, because that's what you were motivated to do. And it's like, oh, you know, even if it's 30 minutes into the future, you're like, oh yeah, I'm motivated to do this. Once I get it done, it's like, that's going to be the best feeling when I'm done. Right.
There'll be some rewards that come out of it at the end of the day. Like, for the workout, for example, that'd be like, that's it. You finish your workout. Maybe like part of the reward is just the feeling that you get, whether there's like some endorphins that spike, or maybe you have like a nice protein shake that you have that tastes pretty good, or maybe you've been working out and you get some compliments, and you know that you want that to keep coming. Like that could be one for sure. You go to work the next day, and maybe there's like, you're walking down the halls, you got like a good shirt on or whatever, and Karen throws a little compliment at you, like, shirt's fitting pretty nice, something like that. And then that just motivate. All three of those things, it'll just motivate you to keep going. So it's not just fear, for sure. It's definitely the rewards that you look forward to.
Yeah, you're almost motivated to get this reward, whether it be just something you feel inside or something you actually get or complete in life. You work hard now, you feel motivated to get that promotion, and you finally put in all the time to get it, and then you get there, and you can now like reap the rewards that the motivation gave you. And same can be said about Karen. Just, you know, she thinks your tries are looking great in that shirt. It's like, you know, that's enough.
That's enough to keep you back in the gym, or day after day.
It's just one step kind of thing.
Have you ever gone into the like motivational videos, or what do you think about those? Like, there's so many on YouTube, just like telling you to grind. Like, maybe there's a lot of different varieties too, a lot of characters. Some of them I prefer more than the others. Like, there's some like Jocko Willink, or like David Goggins, maybe Joe Rogan. I find those, like, every now and then I'll watch those, maybe before a workout or something. But there's a million out there. There's a couple Gary V ones. There's like there's a lot of options out there. So whoever's your person, you could definitely find somebody. But what do you think about those? Do you like find them kind of cringy, or do you like them? Or
I think they're definitely valuable, but the problem I have with them is just or not the problem, but I think the one like caveat is that the motivation is different for everyone, and why you're motivated is different. Like, you what's that one guy's name? I'm gonna get
military guy.
What's the military guy's name?
David Goggins. Yeah.
You know, his upbringing was a lot different than mine.
Yeah.
And the reasons why he's motivated are also very different than the reasons why I'm motivated. Right. You know, there could be some similarities, but I guess what I appreciate, I think he's a super smart guy, and he's got great content. Yeah. And I get value out of that content by taking some of those ideas and applying it to my own situation. Because at the end of the day, I can't be David Goggins, and, you know, just because two completely different guys. Right. What he does is different than what I do work-wise and everything like that. So his values and his ideas I get inspired by, and then just kind of take those and figure out how I can apply it to like my day to day. And that's kind of how I do it with just about all those videos that I watch is you kind of have to take everything with a grain of salt, I feel like. Some people could be way more motivated than others just because, you know, whether it's a lot of adversity they had to overcome or something, something happened, they could have a drive that's just uncomparable to anything you have.
Yeah.
And you just,
And I think that's a key point for preventing a loss of motivation is to not compare yourself so much to all these other people, because that could actually make you lose motivation if you're comparing to other people and kind of expecting that you're going to be able to, or you're going to do what they're doing, or feeling bad about what you're doing and feeling maybe, oh, I should be doing that, and or what are the like other general fears of like, what is that person going to think, or are they going to judge me? All these things kind of suck away from your motivation because you're not getting those little rewards or little wins where you're feeling good. You're getting the opposite, where you're kind of feeling bad about yourself and maybe don't want to continue anymore. So that's definitely true. It's like you want to take it with your own like personal twist of like, you see these guys and you respect maybe that they are putting in work in whatever area they want to do. Your area is not going to be the same as them, but you can take the discipline or the hard work that they're doing and maybe try to emulate that in the way that you want for your thing. But you don't want to say, hey, like I should be able to do what those guys are doing, because different goals, different people, and by doing that you can maybe take away you take away from your motivation.
Yeah, I think that was like, you summed it up perfectly right there. Is you're not trying to be these guys. These are different guys. They're, or just whoever, you know, you're watching these videos. It's not really realistic to think, oh, I can just be this guy or I could be this person if I do exactly what they do.
Right.
Their goals are different. They're motivated by different things, but the lessons that they teach can be applied to your own life. And I think that's the beauty about YouTube is we're talking about the one guy, but you can watch 100 different videos and grab one little lesson from each one. Next thing you know, you have a nice mix of inspiration.
Nice little playlist on YouTube you can put on repeat for a little while.
You know, just let it sink in. Just live, breathe motivational videos. You know.
Yeah, like you're never gonna be LeBron James no matter how motivated you are.
Exactly.
Like, there's a lot of people like that. Like you're not gonna be them, but you could still watch a LeBron James motivational video and be like, damn, he's in the gym, practicing all day long. And I mean, I haven't seen him too much, but I could think of like Kobe Bryant. I always heard he was just like ruthless with always practicing all day long. No matter how motivated, you might not be as good of a basketball player or as like big of an icon in whatever field you want to do, but you could see that like, damn, he's grinding every day. He's one of the best players ever, but he's still there every day practicing,
working.
And you take that to whatever field that you're in. And then the passion maybe is a different aspect, because I was just thinking it's the passion is just like finding some sort of field that you're passionate in, that provides you with maybe a more consistent base of motivation, because obviously Kobe and LeBron, they love basketball, so it's easy for them to step in the gym every day. But maybe somebody who's like I don't know, they're doing something they don't really enjoy that much, just in general, like their job or whatever it is, that's going to make it a lot harder to step in and do the things that they have to do every day. So for that, I mean, yeah, it's going to be, you'll have to find other external sources. I could think of an example of somebody like who maybe they're working for their job and they don't really like it too much, so they're not super passionate to show up every day, but they have their reasons, whether it's fear or whatever else. Maybe they have a family that they need to support, so that's their motivation. So I feel like there's different, definitely a lot of different areas you can grab it from or get your motivation, and they're not all similar.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up a bunch of good points there. you're not going to become these people by watching their videos, but you can apply their lessons to just be like the best version of yourself. And I think that's the biggest takeaway from the videos is just bettering yourself, like a self-help, self-improvement kind of thing. But you brought up another point about like being motivated to do the not fun tasks and stuff like that. And I often think about the lads who are in med school or something like that, and they all have the goal of becoming a doctor at the end of the line.
It's a
getting
grind.
through it. It's an absolute grind, right?
A lot of years.
And you've had your mindset on being a doctor all your life, and maybe not, but for a while, and you want to see it through because you really want to be a doctor. But you're going to wake up and there's going to be some really bad days where you might not like one of the classes that you have to take, or you might really just dislike a professor or just something about the day.
Overwhelmed, like a lot of early mornings, like cramming for exams consistently. Just, a lot of no good, stressful potentially.
So how do you even get through those days? Do you just constantly remind yourself it's because I want to be a doctor, and you just spam that in your mind, just I'm being a doctor, that's the way you get through the bad day? Or do you think there's other things that you can do that will help you battle those bad days, because it's for like the greater cause?
I think it kind of goes back to the imaging of like a potential, what happens if I don't do well in this med school, or I drop out, what do I do then? And that like uncertainty, or you do know what you're going to do and it doesn't sound quite as good as becoming a doctor, that'll kind of push you on those days where you're not having a lot of fun with it. And then also just picturing yourself becoming a doctor, and that this is what it's going to take, and then it'll maybe all pay off in the end. Like you're thinking of, you imagine that day where I don't know what kind of ceremony they do, like a white coat ceremony. Is that something? Maybe, but like whatever it is, like you maybe you're dreaming of that, and you're like, I want that to happen. I want all the great things that come with being a doctor, the money, the like people, I don't know, respect from other people. You're thinking of all that stuff, and that's motivating you to continue. And then I'm thinking, another source of motivation is that if you had other people alongside you, because I could picture, like, I always think of this about when I'm training, doing like kickboxing, Muay Thai, that I find myself far more motivated when I'm with everybody else and we're all doing the exercise at the same time. Like we're all, let's say, doing the plank, and like normally if I'm at home, like a minute has passed and I'm like, I should maybe stop. But like when you're with everybody else, you like lift your head up, look around, and you're like, oh shit, like
who's left?
Everybody, like everybody else is still going. All right, I'll like keep going, and like you push yourself that extra mile. And I could see that happening if, like, let's say you had some friends in med school, or maybe not even. Some people just get competitive with school. Like maybe they're not even necessarily your friends, but you see them and you're like, oh damn, they're still studying, they're like grinding
in the trenches,
and you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna keep it going. So it's that, like, either that camaraderie like they have in like the Navy SEALs, where you're like, all right boys, like you fall down, I'm gonna pick you back up, or maybe just some competition where you're like, I'm gonna keep going even though this is tough, and I want to rise up. Two different ways, but I for sure see that it's so much more motivating to work out with other people.
And I think you nailed it on the head with the camaraderie stuff, but also I find what helps as well is just accountability in general. By reaching out to people, whether it be family or friends, and just letting them know what's happening. You then think about the consequences of not doing what you said you were going to do. It's like, oh yeah, mom's going to be a little upset that I didn't do this thing that I said I was going to do, or I didn't pass the test like I said I would, or just the competition thing is big too. Like you want to see yourself alongside everyone going with you, or everyone who's doing the plank or going into the same test. It's like you all want to succeed together.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be that person who like falls first or fails, because you want to, make those people proud, I guess. It's just like holding yourself accountable is huge for staying motivated, I find.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And to have other people that, whether directly or indirectly, hold you accountable, because I know that I've seen this happen with myself before, where like I'll be like, oh, I don't know if I feel like working out or whatever today, and then like I see my brother like just walk down the stairs, like he's like, oh, I just finished working out, and it's like, okay, all right. It's like, okay, well maybe I will then. Or like yeah, just stuff like that, where like if you, I guess, even if they're not saying anything, you're just surrounded by people that are doing some of the things that you potentially wanted to do,
like inspiring you kind of thing.
Yeah, they'll rub, and they might not even know at all. Like in that example, he's just like, oh, what's good? Like,
he's like,
yeah,
not a big
I'm
deal.
like, okay.
Just chest and tries.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah.
Just crawling out of bed getting cereal.
Yeah. Chest and tries.
That's a good point though. I do get inspired to perform better when I see people around me thriving, whether that be at work and you're trying to see a project come to completion, or you just see one of your boys working out hard, they're getting the results that they're looking for. It's pretty inspiring for me to just put in a little extra work. Like, hey, if this guy can do it, I want to kind of test myself and see if I can do it too, kind of thing. And that's who you surround yourself with, I find, can just really help you stay motivated too.
100%. Yeah, like I feel like peers almost shape you more than, like, how they always there's like the nature versus nurture thing.
Yeah.
Like I see nurture, like who you surrounded yourself with, especially maybe in like the earlier development stages, like high school, elementary school, because like you basically would do exactly what all your friends were doing, and they always had that classic example of like, oh, if your friends jumped off the bridge, would you do it too? The thing is, like,
classic bit.
yeah, classic bit. But like for that example, in high school, maybe like junior high, more like, I feel like the older you get, the less realistic that is. But at some stages of like development, that's not even like super far fetched. Like some people probably would, like they're like,
100%.
All right, we're all doing it, let's do it.
Yeah, it can't be that bad. Just a bridge, and you just kind of go for it.
Not a big deal. Yeah,
all the other guys are doing it. Might as well give it a shot.
Yeah. So, but I feel like maybe you start to realize, okay, you don't need to go that extreme, and you can like do somewhat of your own thing. But in the same sense, though, you for sure are influenced always, no matter what. I feel like at whatever age you're going to be influenced by whoever you're around, and that's maybe not the simplest thing. Like, let's say you want it to be like, oh, I just want to be around, like, let's say your goal was I don't know, put up like 315 on bench for like a few reps.
No problem.
Yeah. So you're like, hey, I should, if that's my goal, I should surround myself with everybody who's benching 315, 405. But like, it's just not realistic to always do that. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just be like, oh, I'm just going to go find people who bench this and then I'll hang around with them because that's my goal. You can't really do that, I don't think. But I think in a more general sense, you could kind of find people who maybe have like a similar mindset or like some maybe like more of a general outlook. It's not a specific goal of like, oh, I want to do 315 on bench. It's more of like a general outlook that you think would be positive to be influenced by, or you like their mentality kind of. Yeah. What do you think about that? Like,
well, just to go back on what you were saying about like being in that group who's trying to achieve the same thing.
Yeah.
I think about I think about cliques in high school and groups of friends and stuff like that. And I don't know if this is like a saying or something like that, but maybe it is somewhere. It's
Yeah,
you know,
give it a shot.
Yeah, yeah, I'll just give it a shot here on Ollie's podcast, see what happens, right?
Yeah, low risk.
It's you are like made up of your 5 closest friends or something like that, right? And I feel if that is true, then who you surround yourself with does make a difference. If you needed to do 315 on the bench, you should probably find guys who can do that, so they can kind of help you out. I mean, you know, if you're playing solos Fortnite, and like that's not the guy you're going to go to get the bench goals done, you know.
No.
Likewise in school, if you're going to play band at lunch, you're going to find people who want to play music with you. You're not really going to go to a group who likes to hang out at like the smoker section, for instance, or you know, like these guys would rather just go to Subway for lunch. It's like, you know, you surround yourself with these people who have that same drive or that same common goal, and then together you can kind of work on it. I think about my friend group, and we all kind of have different goals, but how we like what's inspiring is the way that you can see all of your friends try and achieve these goals. Yeah. And you might not, like, you might be going for a bench goal and I might be going for something else. Right. But just seeing you get towards that, and then me, like, hey, he's close to his goal, maybe I can get close to my own goal, kind of thing.
Right. I think it's similar to like the motivational videos we talked about before, but like it doesn't necessarily matter that maybe one of your friends is going for a bench goal and he achieved it and you're impressed by it and you're inspired by it, but you don't want to bench, you want to do something else. Yeah. But you could still pull from it. It's the same thing as, I guess, watching a video of some random do it, but maybe even a little bit more effective, because you could see this person and
it's like more realistic.
Yeah, it's more realistic. You have less of the like, oh no, that's impossible, that's just some random like crazy guy on YouTube, like that's not really real. But if it's actually your friend doing it, you're like, okay, damn, all right, this is maybe it is achievable.
That's actually a full circle moment for this podcast if you think about it. It's like the real life YouTube is what your friend group is. Yeah. And the thing is, well, what we were saying earlier was that you don't know what these people on YouTube have been through, but you can kind of take their lessons and apply it to yourself. Like, you and I have been friends for almost like 36 years, I think.
Yeah, and it's 40 almost.
So I have a good idea of what your upbringing was like. And then to see you do something extravagant, it's like, wow, this guy can do something like that. That gives me hope that I can definitely apply what you did to, get my own goals.
Because when you see those guys on YouTube, and a lot of the time they'll say stuff like, oh man, like I used to be broke, I used to be this, I used to be that, and like I made all these improvements. It's hard to always believe them, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm sure I'm not saying they're lying, but I'm just saying it's difficult to like really feel that they're being genuine, because you don't know them. Like, they could just be like, or they could be saying, oh, it was really tough, like my childhood or whatever it was, and you don't know all the details, so you're like, oh sure, like how tough, you know what I mean? Like it's way easier to kind of doubt and not fully appreciate or believe when it's just random YouTube celebrities saying that, yeah, I battled through all this stuff, versus somebody you know.
It's true.
100%. And the one thing on the motivational videos that I want to say was that, like, I feel like sometimes they could be a trap. Like, you can like end up watching a bunch of motivational videos, get all fired up, but the only thing that you get motivated to continue doing is to keep clicking on motivational videos. So like
a little rabbit hole.
Yeah, a little bit of YouTube rabbit hole. So next thing you know, you just like, you spent all your motivation on just eating up the motivation, because it feels good. You get I don't know what's going on in your brain, whether it's dopamine or what, but like when you're watching those videos, you're like, yeah, you're like, the guy's telling you like, you can do it too, and you're like, yeah, I can, you're right. And like, you're like, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna do it, like, and then you feel good, but the hard part is actually going to go do whatever it is you wanted to do. So I find, like, because I've seen this in myself sometimes, where like, you're like, yeah, that's awesome, and then you're like, that's great, let me just watch another video because these videos make me feel good, so I'm gonna keep watching them, but you never actually like end up turning it into any actions, kind of. So I feel like in that sense, you got to watch for the trap of like, okay, am I just getting motivated in a cycle of motivation and no actual action, or
you're just clicking at dopamine hits? You're like, oh yeah, Julian's video is pretty good, let's see what Randy's is all about. Next thing you know, you're watching 80 videos, not getting any motivation,
doing the exact opposite of what they were trying to motivate you to do.
You know those videos, and I feel like these videos are so the motivational videos we've been talking about, I feel like those are the ones where they actually try and break down how to stay motivated and, you know, tips and tricks, whatever. Mm-hmm. But have you ever seen those videos where it's just got epic music?
Those ones I was actually thinking about.
Oh, those are the ones you think about? It's like
those are just
Denzel talking in the back. It's like, you know, some crazy inspiring speech, epic music.
Yeah.
And it's kind of neat how that, like, there's so many different ways to get that motivation. Like
it's a whole business.
We were thinking about two different things. I was thinking of like TED Talks or something like that in my mind.
Those, I guess, to an extent, you could just watch them and then not do anything. But I feel like those have a little bit more content that you actually could grab and be like, okay, that makes sense. I'm gonna try to implement that. And even the other ones with the nice music and all that, and Denzel in the back and everything, those are, you still, like, what he's saying probably you could take and be like, oh, true, Denzel, like, maybe I will start doing that.
Good knowledge from Denzel, 100%.
It's a little bit more, I don't know, maybe less thought out, a little bit more, like, cheesy than, like, a TED Talk kind of thing. So
yeah, I feel like the TED Talk might be a little more, it might be a little more serious, and I guess there's a time and a place for some serious motivation versus, hey, I just need to dream really big. I'm gonna put on this like soundtrack to my life right now and just you know, grind it out.
Even songs could give you a little boost of motivation. It's just like you hear a good song come on that fires you up for whatever you want to do.
Do you have one?
I don't have like a specific one, but I like to listen to like a lot of the older rap. Like I find like Biggie and like Jay-Z really motivating. It's something about like it, like they're even like the lyrics are like talking about their hustle and stuff. I'm like, damn, like I don't know. I for whatever reason that I like that stuff. And then sometimes just like a lesser, but like sometimes just like a wild like EDM track, just like
mix it up.
It's all just like for the noise that like just gives you, I don't know, a good sensation, I guess, and you just like fires you up a bit.
That's actually kind of neat though that you brought up how these artists are talking about like their hustles and stuff in their music, which is kind of motivating in itself. That's just a completely different form of motivating, and it's just kind of cool to see how you're not gonna, you know, your hustle might not look anything like theirs, but just you know, they're grinding, they're hustling, they're doing what they need to do, and you kind of take that and apply it to yourself and just think, man, if I just hustle, I'll just get, you know, I'll get the job done. And that's kind of sick. When it comes to music, for me, I don't it's got to be upbeat to get me fired up. I don't know why. Like I mean, obviously you're not gonna put on like some really slow music to get to get excited or anything like that, but just some really upbeat, nice, maybe, I don't know, classic rock, maybe some Kiss or something like that. Like, you know, something that'll.
Classic rock is good for like more endurance stuff. At least for me personally, like when I was running, I would listen to that a lot. Just because I didn't want super intense, because I'm trying to run for like, it could be as long as like an hour and a half, and you almost don't want to like get an adrenaline dump where you're like super fired up because you have to go so far. But if I'm doing a short workout like lifting weights, that's when more like the more intense stuff I find that stuff good.
Yeah, that's a good point.
There can even be like connections too. Because I was thinking sometimes I have like the Rocky theme song or like it's like a specific round I guess that is played, and that has like layers to why that's motivating for me. One, just like the way the music is
it's epic.
It's up there, and it like pumps you up. But I also think of it that I've heard that motivational guy David Goggins talk about that song. He did something like absurd amount of pull-ups. He like broke the Guinness World Record, but he listened to that Rocky song for 17 hours and like whatever.
No.
Just on a repeat. Yeah.
No.
So like,
that's
let's say I'm doing some pull-ups and like I hear that song. I'm like, oh man, these pull-ups are gonna suck. But like this guy did it for 17 hours listening to this song. And it's just like, dude. I've seen him how fired up he gets when he listens to this song too. So I was like, if he could do it, it's another thing where you just kind of like think back of like, oh, someone else is doing it, or what did they do, and then that gives you that extra boost. But yeah, insane. And that's why you hear stuff like that about like this guy doing, I think it was like 4,000 pull-ups. I might have that wrong, but yeah, it was for like 17 hours.
Couple pull-ups for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, like to know that that's possible, I feel like pushes you a little bit more. When I'm about to do like 12, 15 pull-ups, I'm like, okay, this guy did 4,000, so I shouldn't be like, I don't know, struggling, or like I shouldn't be like whining about doing this, you know what I mean? Because this guy, that at least motivates me sometimes to think about what are these other guys doing, or you know that guy Jocko Willink, he's like a military guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, he always posts a picture of his phone at 4:30 a.m. So like when I roll
like
out of bed,
every day kind of thing.
Every single day, yeah.
Really?
But like he wakes up that early and works out at 4:30 every day.
Like some Mark Wahlberg type thing.
Yeah. So like when you wake up at like 6:30 or whatever, and you're like, damn, I'm tired. You think about this guy? You're like, okay, well maybe I could do it.
Jeez. Yeah, that's a good point. He listened to that Rocky song for
just on repeat.
Yo, that's
insane, eh?
That's absurd.
He's a bit like maybe he's crazy for sure, but
that's a good point though. You put that song on when you're doing pull-ups, surely you get that last rep in, you know?
Yeah, 100 for sure. I think about that sometimes where I'm like about to grind out the last rep, and I'm like, okay, this guy literally did 4,000 pull-ups. I could squeeze this last one out.
Yeah, you're like struggling on 15, and you see this guy is like, 3,999.
yeah.
Check please. Yeah, no, that's it's kind of neat to see how other people get motivated, because then you can just kind of apply those lessons to your own thing. Sometimes it works, sometimes you don't, or it doesn't, but the trial and error I think is really important, because you just see what works for you, and then you can constantly do that stuff to channel that motivation. It's almost like setting up your environment for success.
Right.
For me, when like, this is kind of lame I guess, but when I go to work in the morning and it's just my desk at home because it's like coronavirus and whatnot, I turn on like a lamp by my desk, and it's just like a lamp that, you know, it's nothing fancy. It's just one that's like an overhead lamp.
Right.
But when I turn it on, it's like, yo, it's go time. It's like,
yeah.
And then I just start grinding. But when I turn off the lamp at the end of the day, it's that's like, it works behind me. That's a wrap. It's like turning it off. Now I can, go make some dinner or whatnot. But
yeah. It could be as simple as that, just to give you that little boost.
Just a small trigger, man. It doesn't have to be anything insane. It's just like finding a routine and what works for you, I guess.
And that's maybe a tiny win, like we were saying at the beginning, of just like
how
you rack up those wins. You press the on button on the lamp, and you're like, all right, we're on the right path here.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Do you find discipline and motivation go kind of hand in hand? Obviously they're two different things, but I think you kind of need the discipline to see motivation through. You know where I'm coming from?
Yeah, I think the motivation, because like we're saying, it just kind of, it'll be there sometimes and sometimes it's not there.
Yeah.
You need to rely on discipline for a lot of the scenarios, because if you want to be doing stuff that requires consistency, you need to kind of have the discipline, because motivation alone will not get you there, because you won't feel motivated a lot. You might even have months where you're like, I just don't feel motivated to do anything.
Yeah, it just comes and goes.
And
yeah.
then, and in that sense, you can't really just be like, all right, for 2 months or whatever, I'm just going to do nothing. It needs to, I guess, just, yeah, and it's not, I don't know, discipline. Yeah, I guess it's just not easy. I don't know about like where that comes from. It might be a more subtle motivation, because I feel like for any action you're doing or anything you're doing, there's got to be some sort of motivation pulling you or pushing you to go in whatever direction. So
yeah,
I guess normally you're not gonna have an insane amount of motivation. Maybe like you first, this can happen a lot. New Year's Day is a big thing where you see everybody's motivated. All right, new year, new me. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to get stuff done. But it's discipline that carries through for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And it's when the motivation disappears after the first week or the first month that a lot of people stop going. But it's the discipline, which discipline might stem from being motivated by more than just like a simple thing of like new year, new me. They might be thinking like, maybe you got bad news from your doctor saying like you really need to work out, otherwise your health's really gonna decline.
Yeah.
And then so when you're about to skip that workout, you're like, no, I have to do this, otherwise I'm gonna have like heart issues or whatever it is. Like, so that'd be a fear thing. Or maybe you and your friends set up something where it's like, let's all go to the gym together. We'll like keep each other accountable, and there'll be rewards. You're really seeing the rewards, and that keeps you motivated to go in day out. And then I think the habit stuff of like, maybe you just get used to, oh, I just go to the gym every like 5 days a week or whatever it is, and that's just what I do. I've got used to doing it. So the kind of resistance, I feel like, drops as you've been doing something for a long enough time. The resistance to doing it goes down, because you're kind of, you've like greased, you've greased the wheels, and it's a lot more smooth to just go do the thing.
That's a good point. It's almost like motivation, it just like starts the Chevy, and then the discipline is like what keeps it gassed up and like keeps you driving. You kind of pulled it full circle with the New Year's resolution. Just it's so easy to just, turn of the year, get fired up. You have a great bit of motivation to get all this stuff done. So you sign up for the free trials, all that stuff, the gym or whatever goal, you read books, whatever.
Right.
And, you get to see how much of that was just like a spur of the moment thing of motivation versus is the motivation paired with my discipline going to actually see me carry this out and create a new habit? Because I find you don't need motivation once it's a habit. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to ask me twice to brush my teeth. I'm just gonna do it, because I do it every day, twice a day.
Floss might be a different story. But
some guys don't floss. I'm a flosser once a day, but
okay, not bad. I was just speaking for myself then.
Speaking for yourself, no problem, buddy. Once it becomes a habit, it's like you said, grease the wheels. You can just do it without having to think about it, and that's really the sweet spot when it just becomes a habit, and then you can focus that motivation on the next thing you want it to become a habit or something like that. I also think once you get the goals kind of like set in place, or maybe you like break down the thing that you were motivated to into like more subtasks, like, because there's a difference between being motivated to go to the gym and being motivated to go to the gym, and then also planning and like specifying what kind of goals you want to hit. Maybe like you want to hit a certain weight on the bench press and the squat and the deadlift, and then you make a little bit of a structure for how you're actually going to get there. And that's way harder to fall off of than, hey, I'm motivated to get fit, whatever that
means just in general.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's way easier to just fall off of, because you're just it's kind of foggy. You're not really super clear as to what you're gonna do. So you'll show up to the gym, maybe put in a couple reps on bench, maybe I don't know, do a couple curls or whatever. Just the
quick in and out.
Classic split, just in and out. But then like you don't really know why exactly you're there or what exactly you want to get done. So I feel like in that scenario you'd be way more likely to just kind of bail after a month or whatever.
Yeah, you don't really know what's even the point of you going in there. You have to almost see what the end goal is going to be before you get started, so you can see that progress as you go.
Right.
And I find that's definitely a big thing. And maybe it's just constantly thinking about your future self is just always going to help you stay motivated. Whether that be, well, whatever your goals are, it's just you think about why you're doing it and who you're doing it for as well, because not everything you're doing is for you. Sometimes you do things for other people. I mean, a lot of times too, whether it be, thinking about your kids down the line, putting money into an RESP or something like that. And you got to consider all of your future self and the people you want to take care of, or the people that you want to surround yourself with in the future. And
yeah, that's a good point of just like kind of doing it for other people, because I've even heard one of the motivational people, David Goggins, that I've seen, where like he had a moment where he was talking about like, he's like, man, people look up to you. Like he was like, didn't really want to go for the run.
Yeah.
And he's like, but like people look up to me. Like I can't just stop this stuff. And I feel like that could work, like especially maybe like you and like friends decide to go to the gym, and like you're all like you all maybe commit, like, yeah, like let's do it, let's all do it. So then in that sense you're like, man, if I fall off the wagon, they're gonna be way more likely to do the same. So like you gotta, in a sense, keep it up so that other people.
That's a good point. Yeah. It's not just for yourself, it's for the people around you too, because just like we were saying, we kind of motivate each other. Like I see you do something and it's inspiring for me, and it's like, hey, I got to keep working on my goals there. But if I saw you just kind of crumble on the bench or whatever, 315, little bold, but I see him crumble on the bench and out, shoulder injury, 3-4 months.
Yikes.
Next thing you know, I'm thinking, geez, if this guy failed, the heavyweight, what about me, buddy? What am I gonna do? So
middleweight maybe.
Middleweight. So that's a good point. You do want to keep the other people in mind as well.
I feel like that's like the whole team captain thing of like any sports, is like if you're the team captain, you can't give up, because you know that a lot of the team is watching you, and they're gonna be like, oh man, like the captain gave up, like we'll just all give up too. But like,
that's a good point.
Yeah,
you need a guy who's gonna rally the troops, really.
Yeah, that's why you get the C. It's a difficult thing to get, but yeah, I mean, we've been going for a little over an hour, so we can probably wrap it up. But main thing is, I guess, just motivation comes and goes, comes from a lot of spots. You can, I guess, tap into the spots that work for you personally. Make sure you're not just watching those motivational videos for the little hit and actually go forward with it. But obviously, I'm saying all this, and I'm at the same time saying it to myself, because like I was saying, I've caught myself in those traps. And for most of the topics on the podcast, it's hopefully a learning experience for whoever's listening, and it's a learning experience for me for sure. So
I mean, your summary just kind of nailed it, like a spark note there of the entire pod. That was money. if I had to kind of close it out with some kind of, now I'm taking the wheel on the host all of a sudden. Yeah. No problem.
Feel free.
But has this like conversation been enlightening in some way where you'll be able to take something from it and actually do something with it tomorrow? Or like, what, I'm not saying like what's the biggest takeaway, but we were just talking about doing things with a purpose and seeing how it's, your future self is going to appreciate what, like, the work you're putting in. Mm-hmm. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, what is your future self going to appreciate about, talking about motivation with someone, or inspiring like other people or something like that?
Yeah, I think part of the podcast is it'll like kind of activate that that feeling like you're on progress, or you're making progress or doing things well. So like as you close it off, it's like, okay, that went pretty well. And then just like kind of exploring motivation in general. I feel like the better understanding you have of maybe how motivation works, or you see how it works for other people, the better you're going to be able to like tap into it. And like we were saying at the beginning, of how when you're motivated, that's when it's time to take action. Like that's one thing that I want to capitalize on more. And I think just like the more you talk about this stuff, the more you reinforce it. And the more next time I'm watching some motivational videos and not doing anything, I'll be more likely to catch myself, because I'll be like, oh, remember I was talking to Brad about this? Like, this is what we were saying we're not supposed to do. Or, how we were saying, like, try to get the ball rolling, like activate what they're called the winner effect. Maybe don't be as hard on myself, and like appreciate the little thing that I did okay, so that you get the momentum. And through talking about all this stuff is kind of just reinforcing it. And we explored, like, I guess, some new things that I hadn't heard about motivation. So you have more avenues, and the more you know about motivation, I feel like the better. If your goal is to try to tap into the rewards that motivation can give you.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. What you were saying about it kind of boils back down to accountability, and me and you talking about it. I mean, I've read a fair amount of stuff on motivation in the past, and I find like I'm okay in terms of knowledge about it, but actually talking about it with you makes it a little more real, and I can hold myself accountable, just thinking like, man, talking about motivation. Yeah. It's like, now I got to stay motivated. So
that's definitely one thing that I find just in general with the podcast, is that like there was one episode I did on obstacles. Yeah. And I was talking about like some of the maybe better ways to overcome obstacles. And then like maybe the next day I'm facing some obstacle, and like I'm like, damn, this is tough.
Couple hurdles.
Yeah. But I'm like, wait a sec. Like I was literally just like talking about this stuff, and that's where you want to make sure that it's not all just talk, and there is the action. And that tomorrow, when like I'm feeling like I don't want to do something, I don't want to work out, I'll think like, we just talked about motivation yesterday, and we were saying that, yeah, it's tough. Like you want to capitalize on the habits and everything that we were saying. So I should do these things and take advantage of motivation any way that I know how.
Yeah. And like tell your friends and stuff too, motivate them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we've been going for a little longer than an hour, so
yeah.
If you want to wrap it up, or
yeah, we'll wrap it up. Yeah, that's it. Stay motivated, everybody. Goodbye.
Hey, take care, guys.